Now, after spending a few minutes, maybe like 10 minutes even, and getting limitless notifications from my students, I have finally finished the right camera angle. So let us now look at that. Okay, so as you guys can see, I have a new device with me, rhyming accidentally. So I'm not gonna waste any time because I think this also is gonna be a long one. I got an iPad recently, like 3 days ago recently, and it's been like the most unbelievable thing. I actually think it's worth talking about because of how amazing it is. So the main reason as to why I wanted to get the iPad was because I wanted to be able to move around very portably, and you're gonna understand the reasons why in this video. I wanted to move around very, very portably, and what my current solution was for drawing things, such as like teaching and tutoring and all that, was using this Surface Book. It's like huge, it's very bulky, it's like 4 pounds, it's very, very crazy. And that was like just not like really that good, considering the fact that I had to bring both that and my MacBook at the same time in a bag. It's like crazy, right? Doesn't make much sense. And this weighs like 3 times less. It's extremely thin, very lightweight, and nice. The other reason was because I wanted a second monitor whenever I'm portably anywhere. So let's just assume that I'm in a Starbucks or in a coffee shop, just sitting down and trying to get work done, assuming that I'm not in my home. Having one screen on my MacBook is not ideal. And so what I thought was, why not have a MacBook, but then also be able to do this, where I just have a nice little second screen right here, wirelessly connected. Ooh, I don't know what just happened right there. There we go, wirelessly connected. And I can literally just control everything through a mirroring of the display, or in this case, extending of the display. And what's crazy is that I could not believe how amazing this was until I actually got it. I didn't realize, first of all, that the extending of the display would be wireless, and it would be that good wireless. Like, it's literally zero lag. Like, I could put my iPad right here. I should actually try it. I don't even know if you're ever gonna be able to see it, but check this out. So look, just like that, you can see my notes. These are the notes of the actual thing, and oops, sorry, I think I messed up by doing that. So hopefully it goes back. And all I have to do is just like, I can't even see it. Oh man, where the heck is my mouse? There we go. You can just see like my mouse moving up and down. And that's literally like perfect because I can just move this wherever I want. Anyways, so aside from all of that, I got an iPad and I just could not believe the craziest part about it, because I want you to just imagine the following. Imagine having a monitor, a second monitor, and you're able to connect it wirelessly. It has absolutely zero lag. But then on top of that, imagine, and I don't even have it with me because it's on the table, but imagine you have a pencil that you could just draw whatever you want onto your monitor, and it will affect what's actually on your MacBook. That is insane. That has allowed me to like teach people and draw things and show things to people in a way in which I've never been able to do before. So that has been amazing. And so for the rest of this video, we will no longer, and hopefully in the near future as well, we will no longer be using this bulky laptop in front of me like this. We're putting this down, and we'll be using this nice little tablet, which is beautiful because now I literally have shared my screen from my MacBook onto the iPad, or extended the display, and I'm actually going to be able to control the MacBook. Like, check this out. I'm going to be able to control the MacBook up and down using the iPad, which is crazy. So anyways, enough fanboying over the iPad. The whole Vision Pro thing also came out, so that's a whole other thing I gotta like consider now. So anyways, aside from that, let's talk about what's happened these last 4 months. So the last 4 months, I think before that I don't even know how I ended it off. Like, in fact, like, I have no idea. Give me a second, let me actually even grab the pencil. Where did it go? I have no idea where it went. There it is. Okay, great. So the reason why I needed this was to like move around and stuff. So the reason why I even grabbed this was to go on the previous notes for the last video, and I think that I was basically just talking about like my whole like journey of just getting like addicted to games and then coming back and like building like these apps and stuff, and then I basically had plans to see what my body wants to do after I become more self-aware. Phase 1 and phase 2. Oh, I might have talked about phase 2. That's pretty cool. That's very good. That's very good. And then I talk about the big goal. That's pretty good. Okay, great. Okay, so let me explain to you what happened. I released the last video in late February. Literally a week or so later, a week or two later, I got a crazy realization because I had realized that it was going to be my birthday soon. So it was about March, first week of March, and in a month from then, it was going to be my birthday. And I thought, whoa, how old am I going to be again? 25? Holy shit. 5 years has literally just passed like that. I remember clearly when I was 20 years old. And I remember my financial situation when I was 20 years old. And it's literally like very, very similar to what it is now. And I remember my situation with respect to like a bunch of other things, with respect to, let's say, relationships, knowing people, like trying to like exploring different things. And I realized that all of that hasn't even moved that much. And it's because I've been focusing so much time on building leverage and self-awareness, which has been good, but it happened in 5 years so quickly that when I imagined myself when I was 30, I was like, there is no way in which I'll be happy with my current state at the moment when I'm 30. And so it's not like the last 5 years were a complete waste at all. It was just that it completely went against my expectation of what I expected it to be. I expected it to have like traveled to more places. I expected to have a lot more money. I expected to have like been in more relationships. I expected to have tried more different things, different places, different cultures, different foods, met different people. And these are the things that I just did not have any experience with. And obviously there's COVID to not necessarily blame, but there's COVID that had a factor in it. But I realized that I was just very, very obsessed with mainly two things, which was getting self-awareness, which was very good. I got a lot of wisdom and cleared up a lot of false assumptions, but I also was obsessed with building leverage. And so I got to the place where I was like, wait, there's no way in which I'm going to allow this to continue, because five years went by that fast. I cannot have this happen when I'm 30. So I made some really, really big lifestyle changes. So let's talk about it. So there we go. There we go. Okay. So I talked about all the things that I just mentioned. All those things I actually just want to experience more of now. So I split everything into like phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is like me building leverage, having like a base foundation to be able to live life comfortably, like have a financial situation that's like pretty good, have like a skill that's developed enough for me to actually be able to make money, and have a certain amount of self-awareness that's like sustainable for like motivation levels. And phase 2 is basically just exploring all types of shit. So I talked about food, cultures, people, women, places, experiences, and these are all things that I just want to start experiencing literally at this age now. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm gonna start doing it after I like have enough means to do it. And that was the other problem. I didn't realize how much that actually was. Like, how much money did I actually need in order to live in phase 2? And that was actually the thing that was really stopping me from really like doing all of these things, because I was thinking that I had to have at least like $150,000 per year worth of income in order to do it. And I decided to just calculate it. So I just like noted down every single thing that I've always wanted to do. And I noticed, so I'll give you some examples of some of the things. So some of the things were like traveling. Some of the other stuff was like going and trying like a different restaurant every single week. Another one was like spending money, obviously like dating and being in relationships, buying new clothes and like trying different things, upgrading my lifestyle just a little bit so that it's actually livable. Like for example, like for groceries, when I say that livable, I mean like for groceries, for example, I would have food, but it was just food to like put it in my body, and I wouldn't actually have good food. And so upgrading my lifestyle would be like actually having food that I enjoy, and food that I would enjoy, like for example, cooking and stuff like that. And I realized at the complete lower limit to actually explore and to like live all this, considering that my rent is pretty low, the amount of money that I would need to spend each year in order to be in phase 2 on the lower limit is about $35,000 per year, $35,610, or about $3,000 a month. And the average, which is what I would actually most likely do if I don't want, if I like lower limit is if I just really want to do it really badly, like this, like the MVP of how much would be needed to spend. The average limit's like what I would realistically do, which is just like basically allowing more allowance, like spending a little bit more on certain things, doing more experiences, traveling to more places, etc. And that costed about like $53,000 per year, which is about like $4,400 a month worth of income that I would need to have at least. And then the upper limit, and this is crazy because I literally just wrote my absolute dream checklist of like things that I wanted to do. And I wish I had it here, but I don't actually have it ready. But if I had it ready, I would have mentioned it. But it would require about $40,000 per month. So $476,000 per year worth of spending. And I'm assuming that this includes like going out to eat every single meal, traveling like permanently, I think staying in like hotels and not necessarily needing to worry about rent, staying in like a beautiful place with like a beautiful view, like basically just upgrading my lifestyle to like the maximum that I potentially would have thought I would ever do. And it ended up adding up to about $500,000 worth of spending per year, which is pretty interesting because you can see how like the lower limit, the average case, and the upper limit, like how much of a disparity there is. Like the lower limit's here, the average case is here, and like the upper limit's all the way up here. So anyways, I ended up with like all of that being said, I ended up realizing that the fundamental thing that's needed, sorry, let me rephrase this. The minimum amount of money that's needed is 3 times less than what I expected. In arguably 6 times less, or sorry, 5 times less, 3 to 5 times less than what I expected of $150,000. It was between $35,000 and $50,000 per year. And that actually motivated me because I'm like, wait, I'm actually like making a certain amount every single year and I have savings. So I could just use those savings for like a year and just explore and do everything that I wanted to do. And but then I also thought, okay, wait, let me try to also get a baseline establishment of leverage so that I'm able to like make money and then I can start doing this. And what I meant by that was being able to, so I defined that as well. Like, what does it mean to gain leverage? And the conclusion that I came up with was to gain leverage, I should be able to build things extremely quickly and I should be able to just build anything that I want in my head. So if I ever want to test out a product, so for example, like literally, like this morning I had an idea of, I wanted to know if there was an idea where if I were to put a transcript, not even a transcript, I mean a audio recording between a conversation between 2 people or multiple people, like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 or however much, what it would be able to do is you would be able to take the conversation, it would obviously use some AI technology to segment who was actually talking, but then what it would do is it would convert it into people, like an animation of people's avatars just like talking, similar to that stereo app that existed that was very famous when Clubhouse was very famous, and be able to convert that straight into an animation. And that like just literally that idea, if it doesn't exist, I literally want to be able to prototype that like immediately, and being able to prototype that immediately will allow me to put it out there very quickly, test it, see if it actually is worth it. And then after it's worth it, then I'll be able to like make money from that. And the idea though is never being stuck on an idea and being able to rapidly prototype it. Like that's extremely high leverage for me. Because even if I'm like in a relationship and I'm spending like 30, 40 hours a week just like with people and with obviously my girlfriend, I still will be able to dedicate one weekend and be able to build the prototype and then be able to release it and see it and then decide accordingly as to how I want to segment my time afterwards. Right now I don't, or at least before I didn't have that ability like at all to like create anything that I wanted in my head. And now like in the last few months, I'm progressing like very nicely. So let me tell you what I decided to do then. What I decided to do was I said, okay, to summarize everything I said, build enough leverage, then start phase 2. That's it. So when is that point where you move from like building enough leverage to starting phase 2? And that point, I set the date as September 2023. At that time that I made this plan, it was April or March even, like literally about to hit April. And so I reverse engineered it. Okay, September is where I want to be able to start exploring, start traveling, start dating, etc. And what do I do like before that? And so I thought, okay, there's only two main things that I really want to do. It was initially one thing, which was to just like build fast MVPs of products and like build actual products that I think will be successful and try to build leverage that way. But then I also realized that I also, like when I start dating, like I want to actually like look good. And then I thought, okay, wait, maybe I should also go to the gym starting April and then work out every single day until September. So that by the time it's September, I'll also be like pretty jacked. And then in April, I started doing those two things. I was mainly focused on those two things. But we're gonna get into it because now let's talk about gymming and building, which are the two things that I just mentioned. So before this realization, before my birthday, I realized that, I shouldn't even say I realized, I didn't have the realization of how important it was to take care of my body and to be in an active state and to be exercising and to be strengthening my muscles as well as my bones for longevity purposes. I never had like any of this perspective. Like I personally like would just be like, yeah, like I don't really want to work out. Like it's like I don't really think it's high leverage. Like I'd rather get rich first and then work out. I'd rather do this and then do that. And there was like clear signals that like my health was declining. So for example, I was gaining weight. That was the first thing. The second thing was that I couldn't like, I would feel tired after like 60 seconds of just doing any sport, whether it was running, whether it was playing basketball. Like I would literally get tired extremely quickly. And I was like very, very surprised by that because I remember when I was like in 10th grade, I used to like freaking kill it. I was extremely active, extremely high energy. And by seeing that health decline, I still didn't get motivated to go to the gym and to like exercise, which is very interesting, right? But me doing what I want, if you've seen the previous videos, that's like my philosophy. I shouldn't even call it a philosophy. It's literally something that I think is like the only way of being, the only way of acting. Me doing what I want, I decided not to do anything about it because I didn't genuinely feel the compulsion to like go to the gym. I was like, okay, yeah, like great, like I can't do it for 60. I feel tired after 60 seconds, but like it's still not high enough leverage. The information that I had in my head was like, if I start working out every single day, this was my thought process. If I start working out, then I'm gonna have to work out every single day. Because why work out once a week? Or why work out like at all if you're only gonna work out like a couple times? If I'm gonna work out and be committed, that was my rule, or that was like sort of like the mental block. Then I thought, okay, if I'm gonna do that, that's gonna take about like 3 hours per day, assuming that like when I work out, I'm also gonna have to like create a nice meal plan for myself. And like there's all this overhead that I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do all of that, and that's gonna take about like 3 to 4 hours per day, maybe 3 hours on the minimum, on the average case, per day. Like let's assume a 2-hour workout plus like shower and like all the overhead around that, like the setup and tear down around that, and then for eating the other hour, like all this extra cooking that might need to be done. All that has to happen per day. And 3 hours per day for me was like, whoa, that's like way too much. I'm not gonna do that. And so what happened was I just didn't do it because I just genuinely didn't feel like the need to. Then this realization of me turning 25 happened. And I realized, wait, I don't really care about getting big. I care more about my longevity. That was the thing that really just impacted me. I remember hearing, what's his name, Luke Belmar. He mentioned how he knows he can live to like 120. And when he said that, he just said that, that's all he said. And when he said that, like, it completely challenged the like assumption that I had in my head, which was that we all die between the age of like 80 to 100. And I also had this assumption that like when you're old, you're inevitably gonna like have pain and you're inevitably gonna feel bad about what's going on. Like not mentally, but physically. Like you're just gonna feel pain all the time. You're eventually gonna get arthritis. You're eventually gonna like your bone mass is gonna degrade. Your muscle mass is gonna degrade, etc. And so I thought it was just a way of life, a way of life unfolding the way in which it normally does. But the moment he said that, it completely like threw a wrench in all of that. Because I'm like, wait, why are you trying to live to 120? And why do you think you'll be healthy until you get to 120? that made me want to understand exactly what was, what even went to like being able to live to 120. On top of all of this, when I realized I was 25 and the concept of being 120, I thought like after 100, you're like done, like you're pretty much gonna die. But then I realized, wait, I've only lived 25 years. If I can live from 100 to 120, that's basically my entire lifetime. 20 years to 25 years, almost my entire lifetime. And if I really like am honest, probably don't even remember the first 5 years of my life. So really my whole conceivable lifetime is 20 years, let's say. And I'm gonna be able to live another lifetime on top of that if I'm able to live to 120. And then the fundamental factor that really motivated me was like, wait, I actually do want to live a long time. I feel like I have so much value to just give to the world, which makes me want to live as long as fucking possible. And that was the fundamental driver that changed everything. Then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, wait, I want to live long. Okay, wait, if I want to live long, how do I actually stop like sarcopenia, which is like muscle degradation, or osteoporosis? Or how do I stop getting like all of these like big problems that a lot of older people have, such as like arthritis, people who develop diabetes, and how do I like avoid like breaking like my hip, because that's like a huge reason why people can't be like mobile for the rest of their lives after that. How do I avoid like falling? How do I avoid like moving slowly? Like I want to be able to just be like completely good. Like I want to feel just as healthy when I'm 80 as to when I was like 40. And I did like so much research into all of that. I ended up looking into, here, let's see. I ended up looking into David Sinclair and Peter Attia. And I had like a whole page in which and like, thank God to ChatGPT for this, right? Because this wouldn't have been able to happen if it wasn't for this. I spent like a whole month just understanding longevity and understanding our body and just how everything works on a molecular level, like all the way down to the molecular level. I understood the fundamental thing that I first asked was like, how do our muscles even grow? And that allowed me to like really go deep into the muscle tissue and understand that like there's like myofibrils, and there's like within the muscle fibers, there's like the proteins that actually make the muscle fibers, like the actin and myosin, and the way in which the actin and myosin bind to each other, and the way in which muscles actually contract, like the first principles behind that, the fundamental principle behind how ATP is actually releasing energy to cause this whole thing to happen. Like I went all the way down to the molecular level, and I understood it really, really well. And I did this for like everything. I literally went depth first search for like everything. And what allowed me to do this efficiently was ChatGPT. ChatGPT just allowed me to like fill in all of the holes of knowledge of the exposure that I've never had, so I can just do more research on them. So for example, I would ask, here's an example of something I would use ChatGPT for, because like this is the main use of it. I would say, okay, there's something called reactive oxidative species, which is essentially what causes free radicals in your body. And free radicals are primarily the cause of a lot of mutations and a lot of problems that come in your life. And that's what causes old age. Well, let's say like that's one of the factors that causes old age. So I was trying to understand like how do we optimize for like reducing free radicals. So all I did was I just asked ChatGPT, what are all the places in which free radicals are generated in the body, or what are all the factors? And I literally just looked at I just got a bunch of exposures to all the factors, and I just did like further research into all of them. The other thing that I did was that I really, really went in depth with respect to animations and understanding what the scientists that discovered this, what they saw when they first discovered it. But obviously I had a more rendered view of it because I would see the animation. I would basically get like very, very primary data, no interpretations on the data. And that was extremely, extremely useful. I did this for like all types of things. I can literally talk about this for a whole hour, but maybe even like 10 hours if I really wanted to. But let me stay focused here. After doing a bunch of research, I understood exactly what it was that led to old age. I shouldn't even say exactly. I understood a general idea of what led to old age and how to actually generally avoid it. And the number one factor that would avoid it is just by having a general exercise routine that's constantly challenging your muscles, your fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers, as well as constantly putting load on your bones to avoid like any bone problems. And then making sure the fast twitch muscle fibers are being activated. Those motor units are being activated, because the main reason as to why, for example, we fall is because our fast twitch muscle fibers have degraded over time to the point where we can't quickly react when we're tripping in order to catch our fall. And that's why we fall and break a hip or break a bone, and then we're pretty much done. We lack mobility for the rest of our lives. And that's my point, that understanding, for example, what fast twitch muscle fibers were was what allowed me to like understand like what to do from now on. So now let me explain to you what happened now in terms of motivation. On the high level, from 20 to 40 years to 60 years time frame, I was like, I just want to live as long as possible. I want to feel as healthy as possible. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my body through good exercise and make sure that I'm having food that's free from all types of problems, such as like, I remember I looked into like linoleic acid, I looked into high fructose corn syrup, I looked into a bunch of other like saturated fatty acids like omega 6 versus omega 3, and it all has to do with linoleic acid. But anyways, my point is that I looked into just like the best, not even the best, but the diet that's needed to have longevity. I looked into like fasting and like what specifically leads to old age. And a good analogy that I found was old age is essentially like the following. Think of your body as a cassette tape, and every time you take a cassette tape and you try to replicate this cassette tape, every time you do it, you're always losing some type of information. There's always some inefficiency. You're never going to be able to perfectly replicate this cassette tape to this one, and it'll be like 99% of what it was before. And if you compound that over time, it will literally just degrade into like the film that was in the original cassette tape will just not be the same film. It'll be degraded. And your body, when it comes to DNA replication, your genes happen in the same way, with a very simplistic analogy like that. So from a 20 to 40 year time period, I just wanted to have longevity. That was my main fundamental macro motivation. Then I thought, in the next 5 years, because I'm going to be like working out little by little by little, why don't I also focus on getting muscle mass? And I learned about the difference between sarcoplasmic and myofibrillar hypertrophy, which I'll probably go into a little bit later. But I looked into I saw myself, and I thought that because I want to be very, very physically active or physically fit, I want to sort of have like the body of like a Roman warrior. I mentioned, for example, like the guy from 300 in that movie. I think his name is Leonard or something like that. And then also thinking about what's his name? Michael B. Jordan from Black Panther, when he was like Killmonger, and like when he took his shirt off, he was just completely jacked. That was sort of like the body that I wanted in 5 years. And so I had like a macro goal with longevity, then I had like a shorter term but the 5 year goal of getting a body like that. And then I also had another goal that was layered on top of that was within the next 4 to 6 months, which was by September I wanted to actually have like a pretty good developed body, and like a body that like I would feel confident in taking my shirt off, and a body that would actually be attractive. So there was that layer. And then on an even more micro layer that motivated me to go to the gym was that I basically was showering every single day already. Every single day I created this like system where I would wear a gym shirt as my normal shirt. So like, this is like, for example, the shirt I would take to the gym, and these are the pants. Actually, I would switch out of my pants, but this is the shirt that I would wear. And because this is gonna get dirty anyway, it's gonna go in the wash, I might as well sweat in it and go to the gym. And because I'm gonna take a shower anyways, I might as well sweat before I take a shower. And because I'm already eating the amount that I'm eating, I might as well go to the gym so I can take advantage of the protein and the carbs, and as well as the calories that I'm eating too. And so like this like system that I set up was perfect on all levels in terms of motivation. Like I had motivation completely locked in. And that allowed me to go to the gym like every single freaking day, like every day. It's been 2.5 months, and I think I've only missed like 3 or 4 days. And I've been going every single day. Even when I went to San Francisco, which I haven't mentioned it, but I went to San Francisco 2 weeks ago. I went to the gym 6 out of the 7 days, and the 7th day that I missed, or the first day out of the 7 days, that I missed was only because I had to wake up at 3 a.m., go to the airport. From the airport, I had to go, I take a flight, and taking the flight, I had to go to the event. The event ended at like 10 p.m., and then I had to go to sleep after that because I was awake for over like 24 hours. So my point is that I went to the gym consistently, so that was really, really good. So the motivation was completely locked in. That was pretty cool. And then let's talk about the diet real quick, because that was the other part. After I understood like what food I needed to have longevity, I also created a plan, very, very simple plan to just like optimize for protein and optimize for getting calories. And here's a fundamental thing that I realized, and this will all follow through the next few things that I'll talk about with respect to like how I even determine my exercises. I approached everything from a first principles perspective here. Because I had the help of ChatGPT, it really sustained my motivation to be able to look into things completely at its root. And I looked into, and I was very, very like surprised, because I really got exposure to how like I shouldn't even be following any meal plans when I watched like Alex Hormozi's video about how he stays fit, and talking about how he literally just has enough protein and has the amount of calories that he has, like he just is above maintenance, and also hits his 200 grams of protein, and he's able to maintain his muscles. Obviously he works out too, and that in and of itself, like understanding what even keeps your muscles was so important for me, because if I didn't understand that, I would just be following all these rules. And that's something that I just didn't want to do this time around, because last time, when like 4 years ago, I did do that, and I obviously stopped after like 4 or 5 months. So this time I had an absolutely clear idea of everything, whether it was like the meals that I was having, exactly how I was contributing to my body and my composition, as well as the exercises. So let's talk about exercises now. The first month that I went to the gym, I didn't actually work out by following a workout routine. I didn't have a split. What I did was that I literally just went to the gym and I just felt all of the different exercises. It's probably important to mention here as well that I had at that point a very, very good idea of the entire human body with respect to muscles and muscle fibers. I'll tell you two things that I thought was really, really crazy. Two assumptions that I never had, that I challenged them, and just like that, it allowed me to really, really explore things in a first principles way. This is like fundamental pieces of knowledge here. Number one is that muscles, the only thing that they do is that they just contract. They're linear actuators, literally linear, in one direction. That's all they do. They're just contracting in one direction. And that fundamental piece of knowledge was so important, because it allowed me to understand that if the only thing that's happening is contracting, and then there's a second piece of knowledge, which was that the only thing that's contracting is the muscle fibers themselves. So why don't I just flex, or whenever I, for example, am working out, why don't I just do the movements in the direction of those linear actuators? Because that will optimize the most amount of hypertrophy, because I'll create the most amount of mechanical stress and muscle damage. That's another thing. I don't even know if it's in here, but I talked about, I didn't even mention it, but I like really, really looked into like the science behind muscle hypertrophy as well. Like I looked into this guy named Brad Schoenfeld, and he was really, 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 really good. I read like both of his books, and he talked about the difference between what actually goes into muscle hypertrophy, which is like mechanical stress, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. So anyways, my point is that understanding the direction. So for example, like this muscle right here, so your brachioradialis, I believe, and noticing that this actually has the muscle fibers pointing in this direction, almost at an angle like this, rather than straight, will allow you to do the right exercises to actually get more activation. And what causes a lot of problems for a lot of people when they don't get a lot of muscle gains is because they're activating the same motor units over and over again, but they're not activating the ones that have never been activated before. And that's the other thing. There's like slower twitch muscle fibers, like the type 1, type 2A, and type 2X muscle fibers that are responsible for being activated, and you won't activate them if you don't put enough of a load, or you don't put enough of resistance on it. But so this is all the things that I really looked into. It allowed me to understand exactly what exercises to do, all the way to how long I should spend contracting, how long I should spend doing the opposite. I forgot what it was. Concentric and eccentric movements. So this allowed me to really, really understand what exercises I should do. So I spent the first month before I even talk about that, I even did, and I want to show an animation here, and that's why I wanted to mention it. I even had an exploration using VR of the entire human body. And what I did was I was able to literally take things apart, take muscles apart, and see exactly what muscle it was called, and see the direction of the muscle fibers. And I was just moving around like a little fly, and looking at the human body from a 3D perspective. And I just studied the human body completely intimately, and I understood so much from that. And so this first month, let's talk about the first month now. This first month, I spent just feeling all my muscles, feeling where I'm getting the most activation of the motor units. And so I spent, for example, I would do a shoulder exercise, and because I know that, for example, from my exploration of the muscle fibers, I would know that the shoulder muscles are in all directions. It's literally here, 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 all the way to the back. And it's not in 3 directions. That was the fundamental assumption I had, that there's just one muscle, there's one fiber that's this way, there's one that's that way, and there's one that's that way. But it's completely in all directions. And that's what allowed me to understand that I have to, for example, do an exercise in every direction if I want to have the most activation. To add to this, I spent the first month, as I mentioned, just trying to get that neuromuscular connection, that whenever, for example, I lift this, that I could feel my muscle, right here, contracting. And being able to feel the muscle is extremely important, to know that there's actually something happening, that there's contraction actually happening, that there is stress that's actually being put onto your muscles. And I thought that was extremely important. And I did this with my whole body. And I remember in the beginning, for example, I couldn't feel my upper chest, I couldn't feel my rear delts, I couldn't feel my obliques that well, I couldn't feel what else was it? There was a part of my calves that I couldn't feel that well. There was part of my triceps that I couldn't feel that well. I think it was this head right here. The point is that I just spent that first month 2 hours a day just exploring, and it was the funnest thing ever. It felt like I was like a kid again, just exploring nature, and our bodies pretty much are a part of nature. And so I just was understanding, getting an intuition for what specifically is activating these muscles. And so now, 2.5 months later, I have a very, very good idea of what activates our muscles and feeling it. And I remember I heard somewhere, and I don't know if this is actually obviously true, but I heard it from a reliable source, that you have a good neuromuscular connection when you're able to flex each part of your muscle to the point where it literally feels like it's going to hurt. And I have done that for every single part of my muscle, part of my body. So anyways, let's move on from this. So now let's talk about the effect of all of this. The effect is that... Wait, before I even get into that, I want to mention one more thing. My bad. I wanted to mention that, here, let me also see how much battery I have here. Okay, good, 48. One important thing that should be mentioned here is that not only did I apply or I approached this with first principles, but I also approached this with the same principle of doing what I wanted. And what that meant was, I never forced myself to go to the gym every single day. I never forced myself to even go do any exercise that I wanted to do. I literally would just completely lead with my body that first month, and the second month, and the last half of the month. If I didn't feel like going to the gym, I just wouldn't go. But I happened to still go every single day. If I, for example, felt like not doing a particular type of exercise during that day, I just wouldn't do it. For example, I haven't done ab workouts in I think a whole week or two. It's been a long time since I haven't done it. And it's just because I just don't think that there's a reason to. at the moment. But then once I actually get that reason, once I get that clarity as to why it's important to do it at this exact moment, like let's assume, for example, I just didn't realize that getting abs needs a consistent amount of work out of all the other muscles and it'll take the longest to develop. It would make me realize that, oh, I actually should have been doing this from before. So I'm just doing what I feel compelled to do at this point. And so what that allows me to do is to just never have any resistance working out. And that's like beautiful, because like when I go to the gym, it's like fun. It's like enjoyable. It's not something that makes me feel bad. It's something that feels good. And what's crazy is that it even feels good while I do exercises that are very, very heavy, because there's a fundamental understanding of why I'm even doing these. I'm not following some plan where I don't know why I'm like lifting very, very heavy, and I'm just following it because I think I should be doing it. And so there's like very, very low resistance with that. And that feels like extremely good. So that's like been a very good success. I also, like after 2.5 months, I like the feeling of my body feeling like a lot more tight. I just like love like touching my arms and like feeling like the tightness and the muscles that are there. That's like sort of feeling very, very good. I look at myself in the mirror and I feel way more confident in terms of like my body and like how I look like on the outside. I feel like I finally am like reflecting how I feel like here, but on the outside on my body. I looked back at my old progress pics, by the way, almost 4 years ago, and another assumption that I had was like sort of messed up, or like sort of like flawed assumption that I had was sort of brought to light. I used to think, for some reason, that as you work out more and more, your muscles should show even more clearer. Like it should just be showing more clearly, assuming that you have the same fat percentage. But like this is actually not true, or not as true, because when I looked back at my pictures 4 years ago, and I'll show you a picture. This is a picture of me 4 years ago before I even started working out. It's a picture of my back, and you can see all of my muscles. Right, you can see my delts, you can see my triceps, you can see my back, you can see my lats, the teres major. You can even see my what was it? I think it was my I don't even know, but because I can't see the image right now. But anyways, so you can see all of that even before I started working out. And like, if I'll show you another picture of like I think 3 months after that, and 4 years ago or so, of how it looks like now or how it looked like then. And you can see the same exact muscles are there, but just a little bit more developed and a little more bigger. And like the assumption that I had was that, wow, okay, it has nothing to do with how long you went to the gym. It's got to do with your body fat percentage. And that's when I was like, oh, that makes sense. This is why your abs don't show, even if you're skinny, you can have abs. And it's because if your body percentage is low, then it's very, very easy to have abs. And similarly, like I had shoulders, I had like rear delts. I didn't even think I had rear delts at that time. Like that actually was showing. And so the point is that assumption was a little bit flawed. And that initially I had this like problem of not thinking that I wasn't seeing progress because it wasn't showing more clearly. But that sort of got like a little debunked. So yeah, that's like the whole gym saga. And that's like what I've been doing. That's like one half of what I've been doing. Let's talk about the other side now. Before I talk about the other side, I just want to know like how long I've been even doing this for. One second, let me just see. Let me just actually check the camera. So it's already been 43 minutes. Jesus. I kid you not, I feel like I'm only like 1/3 of the way there. So, damn, that's crazy. Okay. The next thing, which was, or I should say the other half of what I wanted to work on, as I had mentioned. So first one was going to the gym, and the other one was building. So the building part now, let's talk about that. I wanted to build a bunch of like fast MVPs, and what I mean by that is being able to build a product from zero, from idea to launch extremely quickly. And the MVP, what I mean by MVP is a minimum viable product. So the product doesn't even have to be perfect. It just has to solve the problem. It can have a bad UI, it can literally look horrible, but so long as it's solving the problem in a way that no other product is solving, then that's proper. So I thought to myself, you know what, let me just create things that have already been created. So let me create like a YouTube to MP3 converter. But then I'm like, you know what, like no, screw that. I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to create products that have already been done. I want to create things that haven't been done before. And so I had a list of ideas that myself and Dillion have like in the shared table of things to create. And so I just like picked one that I thought was easy to like create, because mind you, I had never created a product on my own from like complete scratch to launch. I've never created one in my life before. And so like understanding how to like set up all this stuff and deal with all of it was very new to me. And I learned a lot. And so the first product that I created was something called fallacy.review. Fallacy.review was a tool, a Chrome extension that would automatically highlight flawed reasoning on Twitter. Now the reason why I wanted to create this was originally because, so I'll tell you the original goal, was that I think Dillion and I were talking about like misinformation and about how it'd be really, really cool if while we're reading like an article that we see highlighted text of like problems with like a specific statement. And we thought that would be like really, really useful for people to use. And so my initial like MVP of me trying to create it was I was trying to literally do this for like all articles, like all text on the web. But then I realized that was extremely, extremely hard, because a lot of text on the web is very unstructured, even in the HTML. And so Twitter was very, very easy because they're so nice with their structuring and with how they've organized their HTML DOM structure. And so it's very easy to like grab tweets, to highlight them, and to like not like mess up the functionality. And so I just started with Twitter. And I created it from MVP, like 0 to launch. I released it, and I released it on Reddit. And I actually got like 300 upvotes on like was one subreddit. Maybe I'll show an example here. And and I'll also show you the comments. Like check out like some of these comments. Like they'll probably just be cycling. And these comments were interesting because they completely misinterpreted why I was trying to use it. They automatically assumed that I was using it to like prove other people wrong, when the reason why I wanted to use it was to automatically highlight logical fallacies for the purposes of learning what those logical fallacies were. So not a lot of people know, they know there's something wrong with the argument, but they just don't know what the fallacy is. And so I thought it was a really, really good educational tool. And so because I saw that there was this like disconnect in the audience, I sort of got a little discouraged because the other side of it was like, people aren't going to pay money for this. And it costs a lot of money too, if I were to actually like maintain this on my own. And so I got a little bit discouraged. I could have kept going, but then the reason why I stopped was because I had another idea. And the other idea was that I was typing a question to ChatGPT, and I was trying to figure out. So this is what was happening. I wish I could find out the actual question I was typing. Like that would be beautiful. I had to type like 2 whole sentences in order to ask my question. But as I'm typing the first 7 or so words, if I were to just ask anybody, what do you think I'm about to like say, they'll be able to probably finish the entire question. And I just like felt like I was wasting time typing, like finishing the question, when I knew that like if I just like could somehow like create like a text expansion or autocomplete, I could literally just complete the entire thing and type faster and like, or work faster without even like spending all that time typing for no reason. And if I'm like a slow typer, it makes it even worse because I'm just wasting even more time. So I immediately thought, I'm like, wait, GitHub Copilot does this for code, because the same problem happens. Like I know what I have to write in code, I know all the syntax that I have to write, but like it's like all this excruciating, tedious time just to like do all the, like for example, replacing all the brackets, or sorry, not replacing. Like imagine I open up a function in JavaScript and I open up a bunch of brackets and I have to close all of them. Like it's better if I could just autocomplete it. And GitHub Copilot solved all of that. GitHub Copilot solved a lot of things for code. But then I asked myself, wait, why doesn't GitHub Copilot exist everywhere else? I wish it existed in ChatGPT so that I could just complete my sentence. And because that didn't exist, I'm like, wait, that's actually a very good idea. If I could somehow allow people to work faster through typing on ChatGPT, then I also thought, wait, maybe email as well. People type like very, very common things that are reproducible on email, and it auto-completes for them, then that would actually be a really good idea. And I also had this concept of like 0% market risk ideas, because that was the other reflection that I had about fallacy.review. There's this whole concept of market risk. And it's really, really important, because it, like after making fallacy.review, it really made me understand why I should have moved on, or why I should have never worked on it to begin with. And it's because of the following. There's market risk, and then there's execution risk, like engineering risk, which is the following. if I make a product like Fallacy Review and it automatically highlights flawed reasoning on Twitter and I release it to people, I actually don't know whether people will enjoy or whether will find value in using it, because it's a behavior or a tool that they've never actually used before, and so there's market risk. We don't actually know whether it's going to be accepted by the market. Now, the engineering / execution risk is you have a process that people already do. So an example is people already type, right? So if you can help people type faster, and that's all you do, it's already been proven to be valuable. The solution has already been validated that people need to type. And if you could just do it faster, then that's a 0% market risk idea, and it's entirely an engineering problem. It's like, how can we actually get people to type faster? And how effective are we going to be at doing that? Another example is like, imagine I have a subway, like in the city. I go from the subway, from like Union Station, because I live in Toronto, Union Station's like Dundas, let's say. That takes about, let's say, 5 minutes. But if I can somehow create an alternative subway line that is even faster than the other one, people most likely would just all go to that one because it'll just be faster, because no one wants to spend time in the subway. And so this is sort of like the idea behind market risk ideas. It's things that objectively save time, objectively save you money, objectively give you more certainty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Relative to something else, obviously, that's important. So the idea is that if it's already been validated, you just make it faster, easier, you make it more cost efficient, etc. And that's what I tried to work on from now on. And this autocomplete feature on ChatGPT seemed to actually be a solution to that. Why don't I be able to help people type emails faster, type faster in ChatGPT, be more productive, etc., right? So I was extremely, extremely motivated to work on this. And I built like the MVP within like a week. I built the MVP for Fallacy Review, by the way, in 4 days. I was really happy with that because it really opened my eyes to like, damn, like this is actually much faster than I thought. And so I built the MVP for the autocomplete in a week. I spent like 2 more weeks on it trying to like figure out all this other stuff, and I probably shouldn't have. Like I wasted a lot of time, and I ended up never releasing it just because I got caught up with a few other things. And those few other things, let us talk about it. Let us talk about Buildspace, because this was the main thing that I was actually preoccupied with in the last like 6 weeks or so. Okay, so let's talk about what Buildspace is. I'm gonna grab like water. Let's talk about what Buildspace is. So in their definition, Buildspace is a school to help you work on your ideas, and specifically the ideas that you've always wanted to work on. That's their definition. My definition would be, it's not really a school. It's sort of like an accountability program. At least the 6 weeks that we did, like the Buildspace nights and weekends part of it. It's like an accountability program that allows you to build or incentivizes you to build the products that you've always wanted to build over a course of 6 weeks. So the way in which it would work is the following. You apply to Buildspace nights and weekends. And the whole reason as to why it's called nights and weekends is because you're working on it on your nights and weekends, assuming that you have another job. But I didn't have another job. I obviously was tutoring and making money on the side, but I had like a good amount of time. And so the point of what I'm trying to say though is that the way in which it would work is that you would apply to nights and weekends. About 7,000, I think, people applied, and about 4,000 people got in. So after 4,000 people got in, I think they just weeded out all the people that just weren't really serious or didn't really like care. I don't know, whatever. Out of the 4,000 people that got in, this is literally what they would do every single week for 6 weeks. Every week there'd be an objective that you have to do. It'd be a very, very relaxed objective. It would be relative to yourself, so it wouldn't be like an objective that was specific to them. So the first objective was, for example, I think by the end of the week you have to submit like your idea and like post online as like what problem you're trying to solve. Okay, that was the first thing. Okay, great. That's the first week. The next week after that, you had to build an MVP for it, which is crazy. So you had to build an MVP within like 5 days. And what they would do is that they would create like these I think every week they would have informational events, like 3 of them per week. So and like they would bring on like guest lecturers, like people that are very, very respected in like the tech space and other spaces, like talk about like startups and like building and product development, etc. And that second week was where we got like a lot of people dropping off, because like building an MVP is extremely hard, right? And a lot of people overcomplicate it. They think that they need to build like a finished product within a week, and it's impossible to build a finished product within a week, right? Even for like the smartest people and the fastest people. And the goal was to just build something that is usable, that other people can use. And this was beautiful, because I just love this concept of building things that people can use right away. Because I hated the concept of like people creating products, putting an online demo of it, like a video demo, and then when I sign up on the website to try to use the product, it says I have to like sign up for the wait list, or that they'll notify me in like a few, like whatever, like whenever it's out. Like, that's bullshit. Like, why would I have to do that? I want to use it as soon as you market it to me, right? And Buildspace was sort of allowing us to create things that allowed other customers to use it right away. And so this is crazy, because this actually did help me like narrow this black and white understanding I had of like how much is really needed to create an MVP. It really brought it down like very, very little. I don't even have to have payment information or like a login screen in order for people to use my product. And like payment information, like setting up Stripe and setting up OAuth, it's like extremely hard for me. At least like currently I was trying to set it up with autocomplete, and it takes some time, and you don't even need to spend all that time. You could just you could just literally put your project on GitHub. It doesn't even have to be on a website, and you could have it like locally hosted. Like, my point is, that's literally my point. It doesn't have to be accessible to everybody. That was the thing that like opened my eyes in that second week of building that MVP. So for me, for example, what I did for a fallacy review is that I just literally created a quick project that automatically highlighted things, and I just like posted it on GitHub, and I just like created a demo for it. And because I was able to create the MVP in 4 days, that was like really, really beneficial for me. But for a lot of other people, that was difficult. We had witnessed a huge drop off between that week. I think like half the people dropped off since then. So between like 4,000, I think 3,000, like 1,000 people dropped off that first week, and then like 3,000 people, another 2,000 people dropped off. So I think we had only 2,000 people left, or even 1,000 people only left. I think like 3,000 people dropped off total after that second week. And then the third week was when, after you create your MVP, then you have to go out and try to get users. So you have to just go out and put your product out there and try to actually get users. So whether that was like 1 user, 2 users, 10 users, 1,000 users, that just all depends on your product. Or if you, for example, it's hard to get users, you would have to try to generate money. So those are like the two things that you have to try to get: revenue or users. And so after those first 3 weeks, that really narrowed down a lot of people. I think like really like only about like 1,000 people were left, I think, after week 3. And then by the end of all of it, like after the 4th, 5th, 6th week, it just kept getting harder and harder. Or I shouldn't even say that. There was just more and more drop off. By the end of it, only 450 people remained. And out of the 4,000, 450 people remained. And what they did was that they said, great, now there's 450 of you that remain, 200 of you are invited to San Francisco, or 250 of you, and then the other 150, I think, are invited to Dubai. And what you would do is that you'd go to their in real life Buildspace event, which was just a collection of all of us together that would just be in San Francisco, and then we would just like meet each other and like talk about each other's projects and try to help each other. And that was like insane. And before I even get into that, like, let's just look at this like concept as a whole. So you have this Buildspace program of 6 weeks, nights and weekends, where you bring in a lot of people, you accept a lot of people, like 4,000 people, that's a lot, right? And then you just have them self-select themselves out, like whether they want to work on it, whether they could work on it. Like, all the people that actually are willing to work on their ideas will end up remaining. And those people are invited to the IRL event. And that was like really, really smart from my perspective, on their part. And let's see. So let's actually like connect the two things now. During Buildspace, I think I had mentioned this already, but during Buildspace, that 6 weeks, I built both Fallacy Review and the autocomplete app. I built the autocomplete app literally right before the whole IRL thing happened. And so that's why I wasn't able to work on it like fully. Let me also talk about my friend Dillion, because Dillion also applied to Buildspace, and he also was working on 2 products. And this is going to be relevant because you're about to hear soon. So he built 2 products. One is called Automatic Chat, which was a service, a B2B service that allowed websites, whether it was e-commerce stores or whether it was professionals, to essentially create a chatbot, a smart chatbot for their website, so that if a user wants to ask any question, the chatbot would scan the entire website, have a really, really good understanding of everything about the website, and answer very, very smartly to the user. So that was automatic chat. That was the first product that he created. He got, I think, over 1,000 users for that almost. And then there was a second product that he created called LLM Report. LLM Report is a OpenAI analytics dashboard that provided a very, very good view of your OpenAI costs. Because currently, OpenAI does not provide a very, very visible cost structure and, I shouldn't even say cost structure, but cost between all their models. And it's very, very hard to parse and take some time to actually get some good analytics from it. But what he created was just a very, very nice dashboard that split everything per model. It showed the last hour by hour usage, which is something that OpenAI is not doing. And he's also creating basically a feature that allows you to see your cost per user or your cost per OpenAI key, etc. And this would be very, very useful for businesses as well. So he created basically two B2B products. And we'll talk about both of those because eventually it's going to come up. Both of those became actually pretty successful. So we'll put that to bed for 2 seconds and we'll come back. So then there was the IRL event, and I could not explain to you how insane this event really was. I don't think that there's anything like it right now in the world, other than if you were to go to some, I really actually don't even think that there even exists anything like it. Yeah. I'm actually surprised why more people don't adopt this type of structure, because I actually think it's beautiful. I actually legitimately think it's beautiful. It's such a smart idea. So the idea here is that, think about it like the following. The main analogy I can think of is the following. This is the only way in which I can think about it. Imagine that you're a student back in university again, and what you do is that you do a course and there's 500 people in your program that are also doing the exact same course. You have no idea who they are. And once you end up grinding it out and you get to the exam, all of you are placed in one exam hall in a huge arena, and there's a bunch of tables and you all do the exam, right? And then after the exam is finished, you can essentially talk to anybody that you want about what did you get for that question? What did you get for that question? Oh, I got this. What did you get? You can literally talk to anybody you want, and the icebreaker, the low barrier of talking to somebody is so extremely low that you can make a bunch of friends just like that. You could just meet a bunch of people, I should say. And that happened to me multiple times. Buildspace is doing something so similar, but at a more deeper level, at a more intimate level, and it's so fucking smart, in my opinion. What they're doing is that they're making people grind for 6 weeks on their products individually. They obviously see people online. That's another thing they do. They build familiarity because they're forcing people to post on Twitter about their results and telling people to build in public. So everyone's building in public. So you sort of see what other people are building, and they see sort of what you're building too, but you're not really talking to each other. And then everybody that is not serious enough just gets weeded out. And then you're left with 450 people, let's say, at the end. And then those 450 people are then invited to all chill in real life and talk about what they built. And so there's never a situation where you can go up to somebody and literally ask them, so what did you build? And for them to actually tell you, and then for them to ask you the same question back. The barrier of entry was so low, the barrier of conversation was so absolutely low that it was such a wonderful experience. I literally met 60 to 100 people, and I think I have the contact information of 30 or 40 of them. And I want to actually list out a bunch of different projects that I came across, because I was really, really inspired by a lot of these people. So let's actually go and try to look at some of these. So let's look at that. Give me a second to find this. So I met somebody that, let's see, sorry. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through the list. There was a person that made, so there's a woman that literally made this very interesting device, this attachment on their purse. And I'll probably show it. I took a video of this. They made an attachment of their purse that when they put the phone inside, it would automatically charge their phone, which was very interesting. There was another person that created a website called refer.me or refer me or something like that, that connected people that want to get jobs, and instead of the jobs being and instead of the recruiters looking at the candidates, you would, on the other side would literally be people that would want to refer you, which is a larger group of people. And it's more incentivized because then these people would see you and they'd be like, oh, like you're like pretty good. Let me refer you to like this job that I currently am working at. There's another person that is creating an open source gaming like dialogue library. Not even a library, but like an open source AI powered GPT dialogue framework where you can literally say whatever you want to, like, let's say when we're playing Skyrim and I'm talking to like the gatekeeper and I'm telling him like, hey, like, can you tell me where like the directions to this place? The GPT powered algorithm will be able to know exactly what you're saying and respond accordingly given the constraints of the game. And that's like insane, right? Like, and they're making it open source, which is super cool. There was one person that was creating like a smart contract checker for like vulnerabilities. There was someone else that was creating, another group of people that are creating an app that had it's called Gymlink, which was an app that allowed you to basically see what common activities that other people are also doing in your location, so you can go do it with them. So if I'm, for example, going to play squash and I'm about to go like alone, or I'm about to go with one friend, I'll also be able to know, like, in my area there's like 2 other people that also are playing squash, so I'll be able to like, we'll all be able to like play together. There was and then same with like working out, etc. There was another person that created basically a GPT powered, I don't even know how to explain this because it's like pretty technical, the explanation part, but he sort of created like a GPT bot, let's say, that would answer any question about anything the Mexican president had ever said. The Mexican president, AMLO, that's like the short form. And he literally, the website was called AMLOpedia, where you would ask any question or you search any term, and it would literally be able to tell you exactly when he said it and like when it happened, which is super cool. There was another person that was creating a website for like, you just ask in a prompt, like just natural language of what data you want to see. I'll give you some examples. Imagine I want to ask, what was the overall sentiment of Bitcoin on Twitter yesterday for this specific, that's a perfect example. And then what it would do is that it would just give you an answer about that. And then if I ever wanted like to know like the specific tweets that were reinforcing that answer, it would literally just list it out to you. And you could do the same thing for like anything else, whether it's another social media. You can even ask like, you could basically ask questions about like data sets. And that was like really, really cool. I met another person that was, another person that was creating like comics. Like, here's what's cool. Like, these people had previously worked at like Amazon, like Facebook, like Fang, like all these like big tech jobs, and they left their tech jobs to literally do like these fun little projects, or these projects that they were really, really passionate about. And I was like so inspired by that. I thought that was so cool. This person wanted to create a platform where people could create digital comics on the spot with their favorite characters. So imagine I want to combine like Harry Potter with like Captain America with like another genre of like a completely different universe, and just like merge them all together into a comic using like Stable Diffusion, which is like the AI image generator. So that was like super cool. There was another person, and let's actually go a little bit more interesting now in terms of like scale. I had another person that was trying to create this guy was from Stanford, and he wanted to create a social media app. And like my natural reaction was like, oh, another social media app, right? But like this guy was like so freaking interesting in terms of his product, because the social media app's goal was never to like keep you on the platform. The social media app was to just basically get you closer to the people that you want to be close to, that you can't really find a way to get close to, and also naturally push away anybody that your brain and your mind just naturally feels resistance towards. And it would just give you like, it would be a perfect tool of self-awareness, and also a tool to bring you closer to the people you actually care about, and the people you want to be around. Assuming that like the other people also want to be around you as well. And I'd love to go into detail of this, but like there's so much more to cover. So my point is that there's just so many people. There's so many interesting projects. There was even a YC company, a Y Combinator company that had like 100K users of their product already, and they showed up and they were at Buildspace. And so overall, my point of why I'm mentioning all this is because I've never seen such a collection of interesting people that created so many different things that were all in the same exact headspace and environment as I was. And that was really, really motivating. And that made me focus on wondering why I'm not in SF yet. And let's talk about that, because that's a whole other situation. So let's see. Before I talk about SF, let us talk about why I thought Buildspace was so crazy. And this is where I think there's some benefits that I can actually get with Buildspace from now on. I talk about how they basically allow a bunch of people to connect, right, by filtering out all these people, and like the people that are the most like-minded and have been through the experience all get to meet. But the reason why that's so crazy is because it really provides you an opportunity to meet like co-founders, to meet future like friends, like really, really good friends that are like-minded to you, to meet future employees, to literally get exposure to things you've never been exposed to before, because these people have lived very, very similar lives to you in terms of building products. You get exposed to ideas, you get exposed to perspectives. This creates its own effect too, because since we're all posting and building in public on social media and tagging Buildspace itself as a brand goes up like crazy, and it gets very, very viral. And that's where like this concept of it being like a school starts to make more sense from the perspective of a brand, where you have alumni of Buildspace looking at each other like, oh shit, like you went to Buildspace, like, and then you connect over that. Similar to how someone went to Stanford and some other guy is a Stanford alum, they both connect and like, oh shit, like you went to Stanford too? That's pretty cool. And that's so crazy, because when outside of SF, like outside of that venue, when I was just exploring SF a few days after the event, people would see my hoodie, because I actually don't even have the hoodie, I'll probably put a picture of it, but I was wearing this hoodie of Buildspace, and people would recognize it, and they would literally be like, yo, like Buildspace, and like we would literally just talk like that. Like, that's the sickest fucking thing, right? And so not only does it serve as a common connector for people to find like co-founders, to find people, and for all of that, but it also creates its own runaway network effect. And Buildspace is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what I was thinking was that so long as I'm creating products, I want to continue to build in Buildspace, because I can actually grow with Buildspace as a whole. And I can just like get to meet more and more and more interesting people every single year. And I just thought it was like one of the fucking best things that I've ever got into. So like I'm super, super grateful for Buildspace for this. So that's what I wanted to talk about for that. And on the tail of that, I was thinking, like, why am I not in SF already? I paid like $1,500 to even go to SF. I paid like $600 for my flight ticket, another $600 or so to room with like Dillion in a hotel, and like a few other $100 for like food and all this other stuff. My point is like $1,200 of those dollars I could have just saved if I had already lived there. Like that really, really like put some perspective. Because then I'm like, wait, why am I not here already? Like all of the people that I want to meet here are already here. And that caused me to like think very deeply every night after Buildspace, after the first event, because it was 3 days. And I spent 3 days, literally 12 hours a day, just meeting people without any resistance, didn't feel tired at all. And at the end of each night, I would just think like, with Dillions, we would have conversations. They're like, why are we not here already? And that motivated us to do the following. Buildspace, on top of nights and weekends, because this is the thing I didn't mention, they also run a school where I think only 30 people are accepted. And the school puts together all 30 people, and they give them a workspace and I think a network of people to like build the ideas that they've always wanted to work on, but it's in SF. And we both applied to that school, me and Dillion. And he applied with, I think, his idea, and I applied with actually the Insightful Guru app I think I talked about last video, which was the AI coaching app. So my point is that knowing that we want to go to SF, we applied to the school, and if we get in, it will start on July 10th. And that's a month from now, exactly a month from now. And I'm going to try to stay in SF for as long as I possibly can. And this is where I started to look into like visa, not issues, but just like into like U.S. visas and like looking into like how I can actually temporarily work in the U.S. if I ever needed to, and how to actually stay there permanently and all of that. Like it really just became serious to me. It was just like I want to move to SF and I want to just move there permanently. If I haven't mentioned it already, SF means San Francisco. But yeah, it like really opened my eyes. I was like, whoa. And so let's talk about the following. Let's talk about my goals, because I said that I was going to start my whole phase 2 in September. And if I was going to go to Buildspace for 3 months for that school, it would be July, so August, September, October, until October 10th. I would still be in the school. So the phase 2 would actually sort of have to wait about a month or so, or 2 months or so. So that was number one. The second thing I realized was, do I even have enough money? Now I have money saved up. Now here's the other good news. Dillion actually made and surpassed $1,000 MRR on automatic chat. And he also has interested investors into LLM report, which is crazy. Like he had like the biggest fucking VCs meeting with him. He had like Sequoia, and A16Z that like met with him for LLM report. And so both of those opportunities are also really crazy. Because then now I'm thinking, if me and Dillion just work on full time on automatic chat, we can just build our MRR much quicker. And if we ever needed to, if we ever wanted to, we can always just go the VC route as well with LLM report. And that was very, very interesting. And that gave me the confidence that like, yo, like I should be in SF like 100%. I have this confidence that by like September, like we'll be making money and we'll be able to scale it. And then I also like looked at my goals and I thought to myself, wait, let me think about what my 4 goals are. And I mentioned them, I think like 2 videos ago, or maybe last video. And so the 4 goals were, I wanted to be around conscious people, and I defined that last video. I want to be, I want to have access to whatever I want, whenever I want. And I also, I want to have access to whatever I want. I want to be around conscious people. I want to be able to find all of my flawed assumptions. And then the 4th one was, I wanted to be able to prove to the world, or show to the world how valuable I am, and basically impact the world in that way. And I looked through all 4 of those goals, and I just like asked myself, which of those, out of all those goals, for each of those goals, is it better to be in San Francisco, or is it better to be in Toronto? And let's like go through each of the goals. So like for finding all the flawed assumptions in my life, there's a higher concentration of people that are more conscientious and that are at a self-actualizing stage compared to people here in Toronto. There's like a minimum barrier of entry to get into San Francisco. And so you already have to be highly paid. So you're already up in the self-actualization stage, let's say, of Maslow's hierarchy. And so at that point, I'm assuming that there are probably gonna be other like-minded people that are gonna wanna also look at their flawed assumptions, at least a more concentrated group of people relative to Toronto. So finding flawed assumptions, San Francisco all the way, right? Getting out of survival mode and like getting access to whatever I want it will cost a lot of money to be in San Francisco, about $2,000 to $3,000 more per month than I currently am paying. But if I'm in San Francisco, like I'm gonna have an insane number of resources around me. So for example, if I ever want to start a company, all the VCs are there. If I ever, for example, want to get a job, a bunch of sick fucking jobs are there. If I want to get a job with my startup deals, I have a bunch of people I already met that I can just get jobs from. And so there's a lot of network effects. That's another thing. Like the quality of people that you're going to meet are very, very high caliber, I thought. And so in terms of getting out of survival, that would be very, very useful. In terms of engaging with other conscious people that I talked about, like it's the same thing. Like I said, self-actualization, I'll be able to meet with those people, etc. And then becoming a valuable asset and like improving to the world like how valuable I actually am. That's more like an independent thing, but it's like more location agnostic. But my point is that I have to focus more about like building things that impact the world, building things quickly, and like just like knowing like just like I don't even know how to explain it properly right now, like in a summary. So the idea here is that I just want to go to SF because like all 3 of the 4 goals pointed towards SF. It was like absolutely clear decision of SF. And the one of the 4 goals that was not towards SF was because it was not to Toronto either. It was completely location agnostic. And so here are my plans for the future. This is the last section before I stop this. Yeah, I don't think I need it. The last section before I stop this. So I think from now, June 10th, until July, I'm going to help Dillions scale automatic chat. And I'm going to try to get this from 1 camera hour to like 3 to 4 camera hour. And if we could do that, that would be amazing, because that would actually fund our SF living costs to some degree, like subsidize them a lot. And that would allow us to like permanently live and travel wherever the hell we want as well. I'm gonna wait on the school application, because if we don't get into school, then I might have to stay in Toronto and still scale up automatic chat. But we'll try to get to SF ASAP after that if I don't get into school. As I said, I'm confident that I'll make money by the end of all this. And if I don't get into school, I'm probably gonna actually work on autocomplete, because autocomplete, I have not released it. I know it's very, very useful, but because there's a risk of like people not using it and like getting users and then having 1 foot in and 1 foot out, I'd rather just not release it yet and focus on automatic chat if we get into the school. So that's my plans for the future. Hopefully the next time I make a video, I'll literally be in SF. So yeah. Damn. I talk like 2 hours straight and then done. Nothing else to say. I guess there's also time to talk about one last thing, which I'll talk about very lightly, which is the YouTube channel that I want to create. Another one. I thought of something very interesting literally today. Today I thought about it, which is crazy. So I had a session with another student yesterday, and I was having a tutoring session with a student, and I was trying to send him like a video to watch on a concept, because I didn't have enough time to explain it during the session. And what happened was that I literally could not find a good video. And so I just thought to myself, like, if only I actually could have recorded my sessions and then put out a small clip of my recorded session with a student teaching them this, and then putting it out for like another student to watch. And it's in a conversational format, and I'm very Socratic with the way I teach. And so it would be so much better if I put that content out there for people to digest, rather than this face value, one-directional information content that's usually on YouTube. And I thought that was very crazy, because I was like, wait, if I do that, that actually could help a lot of other people outside of the people that I'm tutoring. And then I thought, wait, this could actually create I can actually create a very, very good structure for helping people and helping show, or I should phrase it this way. I can create a very, very good infrastructure for Socratic, constructivist-based content on YouTube by putting my tutoring sessions online and by cutting them up. Because what happens is that I'll create my tutoring sessions. So I wrote out like what might happen here. I might put my tutoring sessions online, and then the current students that I have aren't as curious. But what it will do though is that, because it's a different type of format, my intuition is that other people are gonna want to watch that because it's a little more natural. And then those curious people are gonna reach out to me, because I'll have a link that if they ever wanna like be tutored for free for anything that they wanna know about, just like reach out to me. So these curious people will reach out, and I'll have sessions with those people, which will create even better content, and I'll post those, and then more people will come and wanna know more about the whatever respective content they wanna know about, which will lead me to meet with those people. And then eventually those curious people will just wanna be curious about other things, and then content about that will be generated. And then I'll have like this repository of just content that's about subjects that people already know about, but in a Socratic and constructivist way. And that will really reinforce a different side of YouTube learning that no one else has actually sort of done before. And it would really make me be able to meet a lot of very, very cool and interesting people as well that way, like a lot of interesting and curious students. And that will allow me to like finally start like the other section of things, which is like me wanting to like have conversations with people, like challenging their beliefs and having that recorded. because I think that's like really, really useful in terms of like value, because it will make people think. And like having like a podcast style of like challenging people's beliefs, or teaching people from first principles and Socratically about anything about the world, and then also like challenge people's beliefs on like human nature and psychology and like productivity and learning, and like talking about happiness through a Socratic lens. And because I think I actually have information that nobody else has, literally nobody else, because I've done this all completely on my own, I actually have a very, very valuable way. I think I have a very valuable insight to share, but the insight cannot be shared in traditional means. It has to be shared through the medium of conversation. At least that seems to be the optimal medium. So I wanted to share things that way. That probably did not make sense, but I just wanted to like mention it here so that it plants the seed, so that I could put it out there and start working on it eventually. But other than that, that's all. Thanks for watching.